This is the VIP Podcast, Virginia in Politics. Let's listen to host Chris Saxman explore the personalities and policies that connect the Commonwealth. The VIP Podcast is brought to you by the VCTA, Broadband Association of Virginia, and Virginia Free. The views and opinions expressed here do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the VCTA and Virginia Free or our sponsors.
All right, this is Chris Saxman on the VIP Podcast. That's Virginia in Politics Podcast, brought to you by VCTA, the Broadband Association of Virginia and Virginia Free, of which I am the Executive Director. Joining us this morning, our next VIP, congratulations, Senator Jennifer Boysko. It's great to be able to have another VIP with us, is the Senator from Loudoun?
And Fairfax County.
And Fairfax County, but you live in Loudoun.
I live in Fairfax County.
You live in Fairfax
Town
County?
of Herndon.
You live in Herndon. I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay.
For 26 years.
Okay, I thought you were. The line's very close up there.
I'm
a
a mile from the line, from
that.
the county line.
But for some reason, I thought it was a Loudoun County district. Sorry for that.
I'm the first person from Fairfax County to have the seat.
Okay, and before you was Jennifer Wexton.
Correct. And before that was Mark Herring and Bill Mims. And
okay.
Charlie Waddell before that.
That's quite a line of succession.
It is.
Those they play from the back tees, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
How's it going for you this session?
It's going well. I serve on 5 committees and
that.
on 2 major subcommittees: the marijuana and the cannabis, and the gaming subcommittees.
Are we not allowed to say marijuana?
Well, I think we're calling it cannabis.
Okay.
And then I'm the chair of the Broadband Advisory Council, so I do stay busy.
Okay, so.
But I love it. I'm a policy wonk, and so
you always have
kind
been.
of a nerd.
That's a good thing, especially in this building.
It is.
I've always found you to be a hardworking, earnest, sincere, passionate legislator, and yet you don't bump into people politically, forcefully. I mean, you seem to navigate the waters here very successfully without being animus. There's just not a lot of animus with you.
Well,
Is that fair?
I find that we when we listen to one another and treat each other with respect, then perhaps we can learn from one another. I'm from the Deep South, and so I specifically have really reached out to people from rural communities because that is my people. And so I like to tell,
Where's Deep South for you? What is it?
My mama lives in rural Alabama, close to Tuscaloosa, in a town less than 3,000 people. So,
wow. And you grew up there?
I lived in Arkansas and in Alabama. So, yeah, both, but I thought I was coming.
Football team, SEC? Are you an SEC fan?
I went to Hollins, which doesn't have it's an all-women's school, so I'm kind of agnostic on that.
No passion in the sports realm at all?
I like high school football, and I love field hockey and lacrosse, which my girls played, so that's, that's about as far as I go.
Well, let's talk about other cultural influences on Jennifer. What are your favorite books?
Jane Eyre is my very favorite book.
Very favorite.
Very favorite book.
Right out of the gate.
And I have a cat whose name is Jane Eyre, and I have another one whose name is Elizabeth Bennet, which is the main character in Pride and Prejudice from Jane Austen. So I love Elizabethan, but I also, when I was in high school, I loved The Fountainhead, which you probably wouldn't imagine that I would like because it's...
Well, not necessarily. I think it's an interesting book.
Yeah.
I don't care for Ayn Rand's perspective on the book.
No, me neither.
But it's an interesting book.
Right,
We shouldn't preclude ourselves with something that we disagree with philosophically.
Exactly.
It's not a good story.
Exactly, yeah. I mean...
Okay.
So I'm a big reader. My girls and I did a mother-daughter book club from the time my daughter was in the 3rd grade through college. And I will read probably 2 to 3 books a week.
A week?
Not while I'm in the session.
I was going to say, in addition to 5 committees,
yeah,
that's a lot.
So I've not.
Do you have a book you're working on right now? Like that's at your bedside? Before I go to sleep, this is what I'm going to do.
I'm not. I had to put everything down because I got homework every single night. So
sure you do.
Yeah.
Okay. How about favorite TV shows?
I love The Office.
Okay.
That's like my comfort food. I really enjoyed The Great on Hulu and The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
And Downton Abbey.
Classic.
So.
I've seen it about 5 times. I love Downton Abbey. Favorite character in Downton Abbey?
I think I like Sybil. The one who became the nurse and then...
That was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was.
That was a gut punch. She was in a recent movie that I was like, oh, that's Sybil. Again,
I know, I saw something that she was in recently too. I don't know
anyway,
what it was. I also love the British baking show.
You too?
Oh my God, I can watch that.
How can you? I just get so engrossed watching other people bake.
Yeah.
Isn't that the darndest thing? You're like,
it is.
What is it? Do you? Okay, so these are all. You have obviously a bent towards British.
Yeah, I think so.
You're an Anglophile, and what about that attracts you?
Well, so my family historically came from England. In fact, this is a little known fact. One of my very first ancestor in the colonies in the 1650s served for a time as the speaker here in the House of Burgesses.
Really?
Yeah, Walter Childs. So you can go and look at the thing.
So your ancestry dates back to the 17th century, mid-17th century, and actually was service in the House of Burgesses.
Yeah, and his son married, I believe, another member of the House of Burgesses. Her father was in it, and I don't remember what his name was because my grandmothers didn't follow him, but
right.
I think he was one of the founders of William and Mary.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting for our next guest. Monty Mason's coming in after.
Isn't that interesting?
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's the fun thing about following our history. But what about the Anglophile? What about the Anglosphere that attracts you? Is it just because of your family lineage?
No, it's just because it's pleasant and they're always
pleasant,
gentle. And when I'm watching TV, I feel like I spend so much time like fighting for things and dealing with confrontational issues that I like that as a reprieve.
Right.
Like on the British baking show, for instance, they're positive with one another. They're not looking to get somebody else, right? I'm so tired of that. I'm sick of it. It's in the news.
How about the standard, the prize is getting a handshake from Paul Hollywood?
I know.
Isn't that great?
Isn't that nice? Like you don't need anything. You know?
This is enough.
Yeah, exactly. That should be enough, right?
Right.
Like we don't need a bunch of we don't need a fanfare, but just like understanding you're doing a good job.
Right. And what do you like about the Downton Abbey storyline?
It's just, it's just eye candy. It's beautiful and the sets are gorgeous. And again, it's just a reprieve from my daily life, which is, a grind,
But even though you're not in the legislature all day long, all year long, 60 days here, but it never ends.
It never ends. So this is what I am fortunate enough that I don't have to have another job. So when I'm at home, I'm working for my community. I am in the community. I'm helping people, especially over the past couple of years with unemployment and COVID, like solving some of the really bad problems that they're dealing with, people who have mental health crises. Like it never ends for me. And I love it. But it's very stressful and time consuming.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
You're helping people. That takes time.
But that's what I
favorite
want.
movies? This will be the last cultural question.
I know. I'm trying to think of what I would say is my favorite movie.
If you had to watch one tonight, this is the one I'm going to watch. I've got this time set up. I've cleared my deck. I want to watch.
Yeah, I love Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is an old classic.
Okay, you got a lot of head nods from the camera crew over here.
Yeah. I love Audrey Hepburn. And
who doesn't like Audrey?
Who can't, right? She's just divine.
Right.
Yeah.
Divine.
Divine.
Don't you love that word?
She really is. Yeah. Right? And then if I was trying to think of something more current, I really loved Awakenings with Robin Williams.
Okay.
Again, that's 20 years or more old, but I think
classics are classics for a reason.
Really fabulous story. Yeah.
Okay. 5 committees: general laws, judiciary, privilege of elections, rehab, social services, and transportation.
Yes.
What's brewing out there? What's the big fight coming up?
Well, the big fight, and I'm the Senate's representative on the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority also.
Okay.
So as we are looking at the tax changes in the General Assembly, the concerns around losing local funding for our transportation, is gonna. That's a really important issue, right? We look to.
What's the battle there coming up? Is that
the grocery tax, right? And I am actually the vehicle. I have carried the menstrual tax abolition for many years, and
we'll explain the menstrual tax because there's no tax on menstruation. Obviously, it's the products.
It's the products, and they're.
I don't want to lose people. Our audience. Someone's going to pick this up in California. And go, my God, they're taxing what in Virginia now? You never know.
Yeah. So for years, I have focused on trying to eliminate what we call the tampon tax, right? I call it the Dignity Act, because women have to have these products, and they have to buy them, and we feel that it's an unfair tax, and there's a whole movement around the country about it. And a few years ago, we reduced it to 2.5 cents on per product, 2%, excuse me. This year, I am carrying it to completely eliminate it.
It seems like, Senator, one of those issues kind of go, why are we taxing this at all? Is it really that big of a deal? How much revenue are we talking about? 2.5% on those products.
Yeah.
I mean, how much money are we talking about?
Well, we are talking about, in the 5 to 10 million. But I am now carrying the grocery tax, like the whole omnibus tax thing for the Senate.
Okay.
All the bills to eliminate the grocery tax, along with the menstrual products, has been rolled into my bill. So I will be carrying that. My concerns are, one, our school and education funding, which I think
let's
all of our
understand
Democrats care about.
how those taxes impact local funding. Explain it for our audience.
Yeah, so we derive quite a bit of funding at the local level from our sales tax, our groceries. And the concern is that, yes, right now we are flush with cash.
Right.
And we have, I think, $2 billion in the kitty, which I'll call the kitty, for transportation, and plenty of money for our schools. The problem, though, is, Chris, that if we do this permanently, eliminate these taxes permanently, and we get through this next couple of years, where's the money going to come from? We know that we're at risk of having a downturn in the economy.
Sure.
I just think
we were coming into that before the COVID.
Yeah, and I think it would be very short-sighted for us not to plan and make sure that our localities are left whole, making sure that we don't lose $100 million a year for transportation, making sure that we're not leaving our schools short-changed.
Sure.
So that's really going to be important.
The vibe now is to cut certain taxes where we can, because we have so much money as a result of, frankly, the federal largesse and the printing machine they have up there, and there's a lot of money around. And what you're afraid of is that this is one-time money, and we can't erode the foundation of our funding structures.
Correct. Right. I mean, we want to keep our AAA bond rating. We want to keep our best business ratings. We want to make sure.
On that one, but we're across the table here.
I mean, your business folks want to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible and prudent in every action that we take.
Well, to your point on, we're looking out for the future, while interest rates are so low right now, the AAA bond rating really isn't that huge of an issue today. Because the marginal differences in those rates are not that high. But as inflation kicks up and the interest rates go up, if you lose AAA bond rating, you're talking about some significant money.
Absolutely. And so I heard on the radio this morning that we have the highest inflation rate in 40 years.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And so we need to be looking at tomorrow. Today we got a lot of money in the budget.
Right.
We're flush with cash, but we should
So where
not
are we looking
be.
at? So we're trying to maintain that structure. Are we going to get rid of the grocery tax this year? That was a campaign issue, obviously, in the campaign.
I think that there is bipartisan support for doing something, but again,
But you're getting other tax cuts.
we have to make sure that we are keeping our localities whole.
Okay.
That's my bottom line.
That's always the
on it.
bugaboo.
Yeah.
Just taking away from the local folks.
Correct.
Who bear a lot of the costs.
And they're just going to have to raise their real estate rates, which hurts our elderly who are house poor, because they have
and on fixed income.
Right.
For the most part.
Yeah. I mean, we got to think of this.
Okay, so you're carrying the tax package, but you're not on finance.
Correct.
Okay, how'd that come to pass?
I've been carrying as we just talked about, the menstrual tax for years. That was incorporated in others. I'm the only Democrat with one of those bills, and so
you're a tax-cutting Democrat. Is that your?
I have been. I have a long history of it, actually.
That's good for you. Again, you're in the policy realm. You're by personal definition a wonk, a nerd.
Yeah.
You're an election nerd, Disneyland, which is Virginia. What is the greatest challenge to getting this bill passed?
I think making sure that we are keeping our localities whole.
What does that mean, though? I mean, what's the number?
Figuring out.
Do you have a number in mind? Because it changes. Does it change the funding formulas at all?
I don't have the number in mind.
Okay.
And I am going to rely on my colleagues who are really in the middle of that.
Okay.
As you just said, I'm not on the finance committee, but unless we make sure that we are not leaving our transportation system without the funding that it needs and our schools, then it's going to have a hard time.
So the suspension of the gas tax not on the table in the Senate?
I will absolutely not support the suspension of the.
If you have the omnibus bill for taxes, that's not in your bill?
No.
Okay.
No, mine is just the groceries and the menstrual products.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the grocery tax repeal look like? How much is it?
So
it's
what
5
was
to 10 on the menstrual products, and
Yeah.
what's the grocery?
So they were proposing with that, and I don't know what the total number of funding that would end up, but the initial ask was to keep 1% on for localities to get theirs, or 1.5%. And not completely eliminated
From whom is
from
that
the grocery tax.
Is that coming from local governments?
No, that would go to them. So we're still in negotiation about that, though.
Okay. So that would come from the general fund then. If you take is this a particular funding source?
So there were different things. I think.
And the 1% is basically half of the 2.5. Okay. 50% of the grocery tax repeal would still be in place.
And I don't know that everybody's going to be happy with that still.
Right.
I mean, that was what was presented in finance earlier this week. As you probably saw, it did not get enough votes to move to the floor. So there's a renegotiation. People are still talking about ways that we can discuss this. You know how this works. The budget and all of these moving parts, we will probably go down to the last day where we will
When this is
make
all
that
part of the
final
setup
decision.
for the initial negotiations, like when you see all these stories about entities and negotiations, there's a starting point and an ending point, and you want to have the strongest starting point in that next negotiation.
Absolutely.
And this is part of that process.
Absolutely.
Right now. Okay. They're setting up the Senate position as to where it's going to be in budget negotiations and conference week, which is the week of March 5th through the 12th.
Correct. So we got
a long way to go.
Yes, as we say in the General Assembly, today was a long week. So we got a year, right?
That's not unfair, because we are 29 days from Sine Die, and that means the budget has to be on their desk in 25 days to be voted on. And you're not even to the point where the Senate can pass out its first version to get into a position to negotiate with the House.
Correct.
Isn't that fun?
Isn't it?
How much you learn along the way here in politics here in Virginia.
I know.
What else are you working on, Jennifer Boysko, Senator from Herndon, Fairfax County, Western Fairfax County?
Yeah, well, another bipartisan issue that I've been working with my friend Bill Stanley from Southwest Virginia is protecting beagles.
I've seen a lot of press. You've gotten an extraordinary amount of press, and I want to talk to you about one in particular, because I was going to give you a hell yeah on this one. But talk about the beagle legislation. What's going on with beagles?
So 2 years ago, I carried a bill. There's a company called Envigo. They breed beagles to sell for experiments and research. And 2 years ago, there were some pretty atrocious reports. Dogs in cages with fecal matter dropping down on the dog, 6 inches of the mess, bad conditions. And so my bill did not go forward because we were told that they're going to clean everything up and it was going to be better and they were going to improve. Well, fast forward 2 years, 2 USDA investigations, 2 in the past 6 months, July and October. We just got the latest one. 340 puppies dead in their cages with their litter mates, with no explanation of what had happened to them. Puppies falling down drains, puppies stuck in the grates where their little legs were broken, dogs pulling their ears, biting each other's ears off.
For medical experiments.
Yeah. And so you think about, do you want somebody experimenting on a dog that's completely unhealthy because there were many health violations on these dogs? 2, this is absolutely inhumane. If we found an individual doing this to a dog, they would be thrown in jail. And so
on a mass scale, under the rubric of scientific research, they seem to get away with this, saying they're going to clean it up, and they didn't. Why aren't these people thrown in jail?
That is my question. That's Bill Stanley's question. So we have a suite of bills that are going through the General Assembly actually today. They'll be on second read, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to actually get some enforcement and some real teeth on the.
Any opposition to these bills?
Well, the industry says they're going to clean it up, but they had their chance. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like, we should have no more tolerance for this.
They're lucky they're not put out of business completely.
Well, You know, 17 people are tasked with caring for 5,000 dogs. Now you tell me, I've got my 2 cats, right? And that's a lot. You can't do it. And there's no way that putting one person in to oversee will be able to remedy that. We have to really put some strict,
That's just horrific. That's just
stuff
horrific.
on them.
I mean, we seem to. I've never been a fan of bans and mandates to begin with, but that's seems more
ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about one I read in the paper, and it got me a hell yeah. I was like, especially because you were trying to reduce the cost for people who are incarcerated. Making phone calls or participating in Zooms or communication with their families, loved ones, friends, whatever.
Thank you.
That is just disgusting.
It is.
That people make money off people who don't have money.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten really involved in the prison reform system since I carried the earned sentence credit bill a few years ago, and I've got the earned sentence credit bill, which incentivizes the inmates to really work hard and behave.
Okay, I just didn't understand what you said.
And I've gotten to know a lot of the loved ones of those people who are incarcerated. And so Pauletta James said she has spent $40,000 just in.
That's insane.
Phone calls and helping commissary, which is like food because the food's so terrible that they really can't eat it. And this is another one that is a bipartisan issue. I'm working with the ACLU and the Americans for Prosperity on this because it makes common sense.
Well,
right?
it's not just common sense. It's just wrong.
It's wrong.
It's just wrong.
Absolutely.
It's just one of those, like, there's no justification for charging people to have a phone call. To have a Zoom call with their loved one. I mean, they're in a penitentiary. Getting their head off the pillow every day is hard enough.
I know.
Not being able to talk to people, talk about inhumane. That's inhumane.
You're right. And it is something that we got to change. Now, one thing that I have done is I have been to visit 2 prisons in the past 6 months, actually since November, and met with inmates and with staff. I am advocating for increasing the officers and the staff members' pay because they don't have a livable wage, but also fighting to make sure that we are going to renegotiate all of those contracts. So it looks as though we're going to move forward and get a great study to get that done.
Stir things up and see what's right. Because a lot of times we over prosecute criminals.
Don't we?
We have done it for a number of decades, but we also over prosecute people who are doing good things because we assume they're doing bad things. So we rush to judgment, and then we overjudge, and then we don't pull it back and go, well, let's understand this thing to get it. Let's get it right. So good on you for.
Yeah, and I would just like to give a shout out. There's this group called Sisters in Prison Reform, and they have really helped me understand a lot. I've gotten to know a couple of the people who were recently pardoned, and they are actively trying to redeem. They have redeemed themselves in behind the bars, but they are really working hard to try to help put a face to the faceless who are still kind of stuck in these very, very long sentences, who are really working to redeem themselves and to try to have a second chance. And so that's another piece of legislation that's going through. It's called Second Chance.
Okay. Very quickly, you're in favor of the Stadium Authority bill?
I'm still learning. It's very likely that one of the locations is about a mile from where I live.
And the Dulles Project.
I have seen,
CIT.
I did all the land use and transportation when I was a young staffer working for my supervisor. So I'm intimately familiar with that area. I just want to make sure that, we wouldn't be holding any funding responsibility at the local level again. But I've seen stuff that looks really promising and impressed with what they've done in other areas.
Last question.
Okay.
Talk about second chances, the redemptive nature of humanity, going back to Downton Abbey. Who's the character that you'd like to see, who grew the most, who got the second chance?
On Downton Abbey? Oh, I think it's got to be Lady Mary.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you not remember at the very beginning, she was really just kind of caught up in herself and didn't really care about anyone else. And then I think by the end of the series, she had really grown into
For me, it was Thomas.
Okay.
Just how he was the scurrilous.
He was so awful.
So awful. But then he grew to be the new Carson eventually, perhaps.
You know, you've got a point there. He's never been my favorite character. I think
but
he's always been my least favorite.
Like, look how far he's come.
He did.
He struggled.
You got a point, Chris.
He struggled.
He did.
I'm not trying to make a point, but love exploring it with you a little bit further. Joining us this morning was Senator Jennifer Boysko from Western Fairfax County, also representing a chunk of Loudoun as well. Thanks for joining us, Jennifer, on the VIP podcast, available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you.
Have a great day.
You too.